Hello, everybody. Welcome to our new series of world geography. In this series, we are going to look into the entire world geography. We are going to map the different countries and their location, and we are going to look into the geographical phenomena related to it. Because we have seen in the past years in the examinations where there were a lot of questions asked from the world geography, such as they were asking about the lakes. So we are going to start a series where we'll talk about the mapping and we'll do the mapping of world geography. So in today's series, we are going to start with Central America, and we have taken a small portion as because it's the beginning, and we'll proceed in this way as such that in coming few months we'll cover the entire world and we'll look into it in a very detailed way. We'll look into it from all the perspective whichever possible so that it covers holistically for your examination. So today's series is the Central American region, where we'll see 7 most important countries. If you look into the slide, you will see that this is the region of Central America, and here in the map of America, you'll find this is your North America, this is your South America, and here is your Central America. But however, remember there are different other terms also used to name these places or name this location. That is, the northern part is popularly referred as the American landmass or the American region. This southern part is also referred to as Latin America. But remember that Latin America is not only the southern part or the southern landmass. Latin America basically starts from here. It starts from Mexico up to Argentina and Chile. But this particular region is the Central America. So there are 7 countries in this region, and on the right hand side it is the Caribbean Sea, and on the left hand side it is the Pacific Ocean. Here in this region you'll find the Gulf of Honduras. This region you'll find the San Juan del Bay. Here you'll find the Bay of Mosquito. Let me rewrite it once again. This is the Gulf of Honduras. Here you have your San Juan del Bay. Here you have your Bay of Gulf of Mosquito. This region here it is called as the Gulf of Fonseca. This region is called as the Gulf of Papagayo, and this region is called as the Gulf of, this is not a gulf, this is a bay, Bay of Coronado. And in this region of Panama you'll find the Gulf of Panama. So a total of 7 countries. The first one is your Belize. The capital of Belize is Belmopan. We are going to look into these countries in detail one by one, but this is a general understanding. Second is Guatemala. The capital is Guatemala City. The third is Honduras. The capital is Tegucigalpa. Fourth is El Salvador. The capital is San Salvador. Fifth is your Nicaragua. The capital is Managua. Sixth is your Costa Rica. The capital is San Jose or Jose, however you pronounce, doesn't matter until unless you remember. And the last seventh one is the Panama, and the capital is Panama City. Here, if we look into, out of the 7 countries, 5 countries they have borders or they have coastal lines both in the Caribbean Sea on this side and Pacific Ocean on this side. It is only 2 countries which shares boundary with only one oceanic water body. The first one is Belize. It shares boundary only with the Caribbean region here, Caribbean Sea here, and the other one is the El Salvador, which shares boundary only with Pacific. The rest other, if you see Guatemala here, it is the Pacific Ocean. Here it is the Caribbean Sea. Okay, Honduras here it is the Caribbean Sea. This particular part of Honduras shares boundary with the Pacific Ocean, and the rest three, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama, they share boundary with both Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean. So this is all about the location of the countries of Central America. So now let us see that how was this particular landmass formed, because it's an interesting history, geological history, geomorphological history, which is responsible for the formation of this particular landmass. Because in the map, if you see, this is the entire landmass of North America, this is the entire landmass of South America, and these two landmasses are connected by this narrow strip of land. And such narrow strip of land which connects two large landmass and divides two water bodies. On this side you have your Caribbean, and on this side you have your Pacific, right? So basically, this particular landmass is connecting North America with South America and is dividing Caribbean Sea from the Pacific Ocean. So this landmass is popularly named as isthmus, and this isthmus is called as the Isthmus of Panama. And how was it formed? Let us look into the geomorphological history. See, here we are talking about something 5 million years ago. So this particular landmass was formed somewhere between 5 million years ago, not between like 5 to 6 billion years ago, it was particularly formed. How was it formed? So if you look into the landmass, on this side of the landmass you will find the Caribbean plate, and on the left of this landmass you will find the Caucasus plate. Okay, so if this is your North America, and this is your South America, here you have the Caribbean plate, and here you have your Caucasus plate, and both of these plates are oceanic in nature. And somewhat it started somewhere 70 million years ago. The collision of these two plates started, and as a result of collision, what happened, there was formation of volcanic mountains, and these volcanic mountains were formed in an chain pattern, and thus they formed certain islands or archipelagos. And as time went on, the volcanic eruption continued, and as a result, just 5 million years ago, the entire landmass of North America and South America was connected with this particular landmass, which we named it as Isthmus of Panama. And you can come to a conclusion to this, that as because these regions were formed due to the collision of two oceanic plates, then definitely this region have high intense volcanic mountains and are prone to severe earthquakes. Definitely. Even today, if you go to this region, the entire region of Central America is filled with volcanic mountains. You'll hardly find plain regions. Most of the geographical area of Central America is covered with mountains which are volcanic in nature and also are prone to frequent earthquakes. So this is the formation of the Central America. Two important places to remember: one is the Caucasus plate, another one is the Caribbean plate. Now let's go to the mapping of Central America. The first country we are going to start with is our Belize. This Belize is a very interesting country in Central America. Why? Because if you look into the other countries of Central America, all of these countries are mainly, Spanish speaking or Portuguese speaking countries, or some countries also have French as their language. So Belize is the only country which is an English speaking country. And this Belize is so interesting that you might have heard about the Great Barrier Reef, which is located in the Pacific Ocean, somewhere starting from Philippines. It goes on to Australia and Papua New Guinea. This is the world's largest bearing reef. We know about it. It is located in Pacific Ocean, but nobody talks about the second largest. The second largest is located in Belize. So this is the bearing reef around Belize, which is the world's second largest bearing reef. Belize's capital is Belmopan. It has a mountain range which is called as the Maya Mountain Range, and the highest peak of Belize is Dole Delights. This is the highest peak of Belize, and on this northern part of Belize you'll find the Corozal Bay, and on the southern part of Belize you'll find the Gulf of Honduras, which just I have mentioned few minutes ago in the starting of the slide. In Belize, just like you will see a lot of bearing reefs, and it has the world's second largest bearing reefs, Belize is also very popular for its sinkhole. So these are sinkholes. What are exactly sinkholes? See, sinkholes are basically the holes or the regions in the ocean where the depth of the ocean is comparatively very high than the surrounding region. That is why you will see that the color of the water in the sinkhole or around the sinkhole is darker, but the color of the water which is away from the sinkhole is lighter in color. This color thickness or the density of water says about the depthness of this particular region, because the more the depth, the more the volume of water, okay, I mean holding capacity of the area, and thus the color becomes darker and darker. So these dark color regions are called as sinkhole. That is, you can consider it, they are like large, very very large hole kind of you know landform which are located in the ocean, and in this sinkhole there's a huge amount of deposition of sediments as time goes on. The second country after Belize is your Guatemala. Guatemala is located to the left hand side of the Belize, and it is bounded by Mexico on the north, it is bounded by Honduras, and it is bounded by El Salvador to its south. Guatemala, on the right hand side you will see there's a region of Guatemala, that this particular region, it is connected with Gulf of Honduras and Caribbean Sea, and on the left hand side it is um, connected with the Pacific Ocean. The capital of Guatemala is very easy, it is Guatemala City, and the mountain range of Guatemala is known as Sierra Madre. There's a river which is the largest river of Guatemala, that is the Montegua River. Apart from this, Guatemala has two very popular lake. One is the lake Petén Itza, another one is the lake Isabel. There is one more lake, there is a third lake in Guatemala which is located in between the mountains, which is called as the lake Atitlan. Guatemala, how do you remember Guatemala? Guatemala is basically, you can talk about that it has one of the world's oldest civilization, which is called as the Mayan civilization. Just like Indus Valley civilization, just like Harappan civilization, just like Mesopotamian civilization. Similarly, in the regions of America also, there was one popular civilization which was called as the Mayan civilization, located in Guatemala. But however, you will find this Mayan civilization in El Salvador and in parts of Honduras also, because it was spreaded for a large area. But the most prominent location of this civilization is in Guatemala. Some important things to remember about this civilization is that they are one of the among civilization who were considered as the inventor of today's calendar. And also, similar to India, this civilization was also believed to have invented the number 0. So that's all about Guatemala. What is more important to remember, that it boundaries with the Caribbean Sea also on this side, because in the larger map you might see that it is bounding only Pacific Ocean, but there's a small stretch of land which is attached with Gulf of Honduras and then Caribbean Sea. The next country is your El Salvador. El Salvador is the smallest country of Central America. It is the smallest country of Central America. The capital is San Salvador, and the mountain range here is Cerro El Pitel. The longest river is Rio Lempa, and here you will find two important lakes. That is, one is your lake Cotapeque, another one is your lake Io Pengo. Why are these two lakes important? Because they are one among the largest crater lakes of the world. The largest crater lake is located in Asia. If you know the name, just type it in the comment section. What are these crater lakes? Crater lakes are the lakes which are located on the top of a mountain. Like whenever there is a volcanic eruption happening, the volcanoes, I mean the materials, they result into formation of mountains, and thus the mountain has a mouth which is called as the volcanic mouth, and there is a vent, right? But as time goes on, the magma chamber is empty at one point of time and there is no volcanic eruption happening, and as a result this region does not receive any kind of eruption. And when there is good amount of rainfall, then this particular mouth of the volcano is filled with water, forming crater lakes. So this is one example of a crater lake. So you will find two large lakes. One is Lake Cotapeque and one is Lake Io Pengo. And apart from this, you will find other crater lakes also in this region of El Salvador. El Salvador is, termed as the city of volcanoes. Okay, it is popularly termed the city of volcanoes. There are two countries in Central America which are very much active with volcanoes, and one of them is the El Salvador. The next is your Honduras. Okay, now Honduras is one of the country in Central America which is very much in news for quite a number of time because of its instability. I mean government instability or geopolitical issue. Honduras capital is your Tegucigalpa. Now there are two capitals which are difficult to remember. One is Belize, which is Bella uh, Bella Monpa. Another one is your Honduras, which is Tegucigalpa. The rest other capitals are pretty similar to the name of the country. The mountain in Honduras, you'll see the major mountain in Honduras is Mount Selicu. This is the highest peak of Honduras. The longest river is Patuca. This is the longest river which starts from the western part of the Honduras and ultimately goes and falls into the Caribbean Sea. Honduras is also popularly known for its Bay Island National Park, which is one of the major tourist destination. Honduras, on the left hand side, is more covered or has more mountainous region, but as you go on the eastern side, you will find this region has kind of good amount of plain regions. This is similar to kind of India's, you know, geography, where you see on the western side we have our hill ranges such as the Western Ghat, but as we go on the eastern side there is an inclination of the entire landmass. Why? Because of the numbers of river which are flowing from west to east. Similarly, even in Honduras you'll find that the rivers are basically flowing from west to east location, and thus on the eastern side the landmass kind of starts getting uh, uh, there's a slope in the eastern side of this landmass. Honduras, economy is mainly based on, banana. That is why you'll see that sometimes, just in a sarcastic way, in a sarcasm, Honduras government or the uh, country is also referred to as Banana Republic. Banana Republic, the term Banana Republic is a sarcastic word. Okay, why it is used? Because any country which is called as a banana republic, it can be defined as the country whose government is unstable, and the majority of the country's resources is concentrated in one person, in a single person, or in a kind of a group where there are few people who controls the major resources or economy of the country. So that is why you'll see that the decisions of the government is also taken by this group of people or by the individual. So the governance is not as good as like the other countries. That is why in a very, satire way, it is called as a, banana republic, and Honduras is termed as a banana republic. In Honduras you'll find a bearing reef which is called as the Mesoamerican bearing reef, and it is located in this region of Bay Island. If you look to the boundaries of Honduras, on this side it is bounded with Guatemala, El Salvador and Nicaragua to its southern side. And Honduras, just like Guatemala, has a small stretch of land here which is connected with the Pacific Ocean. And this particular region is called as the Gulf of Fonseca. So this is the Gulf of Fonseca in Honduras. The next country to Honduras is Nicaragua. And Nicaragua is the largest country in Central America in terms of area. Nicaragua's capital is Managua. It is similar to the name Nicaragua. So it is the Managua which is the capital. The hill range here is Cordillera de los Maribos. And the highest peak is your Cerro Mogoton. And the river, the largest river is the river Coco. And all of these rivers of Honduras is also, east flowing. That is, majority of the rivers are going and falling into the Caribbean Sea. In Nicaragua there are two major lakes which you should remember. One is the Lake Nicaragua, another one is the Lake Managua. Now this Lake Nicaragua was very much in the news for a particular reason. The reason is, we know that in Panama there is a canal which is called as the Panama Canal, and in the Panama Canal, though it is under the control of Panama, yet USA has a huge, control over the Panama Canal. So when there was a conflict, when there was a trade war going on between USA and China for a long period of time, we know that this has been continuing. China has proposed to build a new canal in Nicaragua through this lake Nicaragua, and thus this lake Nicaragua was in news for a good number of time. And remember, it is also one of the largest lake in the regions of North and South America, including Central America. A very interesting thing about the lake Nicaragua is that, as because we know that the entire region of Central America is, covered with volcanic mountains. So you will see that in Lake Nicaragua, there is an island which is called as the Ometepe Island. And this Ometepe Island has a twin volcano. So this is a kind of a volcano. It's a kind of a volcanic mountain inside the Lake Nicaragua, and this is called as the Twin Volcanic Island, or in other word, it is named as the Ometepe Island. It borders Honduras and Costa Rica to its south. The next country to Nicaragua is your Costa Rica. Costa Rica is also very popular in terms of football, because you'll see a team of from Costa Rica. You'll see majority of these countries, they are football loving nations, and Costa Rica has a football team, and there are good numbers of players from Costa Rica who has made into the global level. The capital of Costa Rica is San Jose. The capital is San Jose. And the highest peak is Cerro Chipo. There are various lakes, but one of the major lake of Costa Rica is Lake Arenal. This is the lake which is located in the northern part of Costa Rica. The river which is the longest in Costa Rica is the San Juan River. This San Juan River flows from this region of Volcan Arenal, which is near to Lake Arenal, and then goes into Nicaragua for some distance and then falls into the Caribbean Sea. Costa Rica is very popular for its ecotourism. What is ecotourism? Ecotourism का मतलब ये होता है कि that the tourism is based on nature. That is, the people go out and enjoy the nature, they hike in the nature, they stay in the nature, and everything is related to nature. There is no fancy, flashy kind of hotels. It is all natural. So it is the world's leading ecotourism. Another interesting fact about Costa Rica is that they do not have any standing army. Like in India, we have our standing army. Costa Rica does not have standing army. Similar to Costa Rica, there are other countries also who does not have standing army. Like example, Panama does not have a standing army. Iceland does not have a standing army. Tuvalu, a small nation in the Pacific Ocean, does not have a standing army. Nuara does not have a standing army. Vatican City does not have a standing army. So it means that most of their law is maintained by the local police, and if there is a kind of external aggression happening, if there's an attack by anybody on this country, then they have their partners who will send army, and if not partner, then there will be the UN peacemaker army who will go and fight for them. Like example, if you talk about Iceland, Iceland has this NATO army to protect them if there is any attack on them, but they do not have any standing army. Now, what is the reason behind removal of the standing army? Now, as like I have told you, in all of these Central American countries, like particularly in Honduras, I have told you about the Banana Republic. All of these countries, they do not have very strong, government. That is, all of these countries are tax haven countries, and most of their economy is relied on tourism, relied on shell companies. Okay, and just like I told you, tax haven countries, so there is a lot of shell companies around this particular region, so the economy bloom in this prospect. Tourism plays a very important role, and also this country is located near the equator, so there's a huge natural resources, or harbour resources. So the government is not stable. So if there is a strong army which is ruled, or which is run by a very strong powerful person, then there's a possibility of coup happening, and also there is a shortage of manpower. Also there is shortage of financial support, because the country's economy is mainly relied on one or few things. Okay, so thus what did they do? They removed the permanent army. In Costa Rica around 1960s and 70s, they removed or they discontinued their army, and today they do not have any standing army. Similar to Costa Rica, remember, Panama also does not have any standing army. On this side of Costa Rica, here you will find the Coronado Bay. Okay, here you have the Coronado Bay. The next country is your Panama country. And it is because of this country, the Central America is always remembered by the world because of the presence of a canal which is called as the Panama Canal. Now, the Panama country is a long extended stretch country which starts from Costa Rica on the northern side and is connected with Colombia to its southern side. And the total distance from Costa Rica to Colombo is around 750 kilometers. And if you talk about the breadth of the country, the maximum breadth of the country is around 150 in some areas, okay, 150 to 180, and the minimum is 35 kilometer in some areas. This country's capital is the Panama City. Is the Panama City. On the southern side, you have the Gulf of Panama, and on the northern side, you have the Limon Bay. Remember that there is a canal here which is called as the Panama Canal. We're going to talk about the canal also. Remember, the Panama Canal does not connect the Pacific Ocean with the Caribbean Sea. Yes, technically it connects, but if you have to look into detail, it basically connects the Gulf of Panama, which connects with the Pacific Ocean, with the Limon Bay, which is connected with the Arabian Sea, and then Arabian Sea is connected with the Atlantic Ocean. So the detailed connectivity of the Panama Canal is between Limon Bay on its east and Gulf of Panama on its west. Here, this particular region is also called as the Gulf of Mosquito, and here you will find the Gulf of Darien. In Panama, there is a very popular lake which is called as Lake Gatun. This lake which you see here is called as Lake Gatun. And just like I told you, in Nicaragua, the Chinese were planning to build a canal which will connect the Caribbean Sea with the Pacific Ocean. They would definitely take the help of the Lake Nicaragua or Lake Managua. Why? Because in such locations, if there is a lake in between a canal, it becomes easier for docking of ships. Because in one go, two ships might not be able to pass. So what will happen? The lakes provides kind of a parking lot for the ships. So the lakes, even in Swiss Canal, you'll find a lot of small lakes here and there. Though in the map you will not see, but if you look it in detail, you'll find a lot of lakes in Swiss Canal. Similarly, in Panama also there is a large lake. It is not only one lake; there are other small lakes here and there. But this is the largest lake, which is called as the Gatun Lake. So technically, if we look, that is the Panama Canal connects the Gulf of Panama with Gatun Lake. The Gatun Lake connects with Limon Bay. Limon Bay connects with the Caribbean Sea, and Caribbean Sea connects with the Atlantic Ocean. So this is the popular Panama Canal and the Lake Gatun. So I hope you'll remember the Lake Gatun. That, because most of the people does not know. They think that the Panama Canal directly connects the Pacific Ocean with the Caribbean Sea. Yes, it connects. But if you look into in detail, this is what it is: Gulf of Panama, Gatun, and Limon. Now, if you talk about this Panama Canal, you'll see that this Panama Canal was a engineering marvel of the world. It was built in 1881 by a person named as Ferdinand de Lesseps. He was a French engineer, and at that time in 1881, the Panama region was under the French control. So this particular person was given the responsibility of building this canal. Now, what was the necessity of this canal? The necessity of this canal was to reduce the time of ships travel. Like, before the Panama was constructed, if any ship had to travel from San Francisco to New York on the eastern side of USA, then they would have to go through the Pacific Ocean, they would have to go through the direct passage and then enter into Atlantic Ocean, and from Atlantic Ocean they would have to go to New York. In the similar way, if they had to go to Europe, they would have taken the same route, but Asia they will go on this side. So what happens is that for a person to travel from San Francisco to New York, it took 22 days to travel. Now it is not just the day which is long, but it is also the route which is very dangerous, because when the ship has to go through Pacific Ocean, up till here everything is fine, but in this region of direct passage, it is one of the deadliest passage of the world. There are strong winds blowing in this region, and also there are waves which takes up a very high height, and most of the ships basically are not able to cross this direct pace because of the instability of the water, so it becomes very dangerous. So finally they came up with the conclusion that we can cut this small piece of land and build a canal from where the ship can take a shortcut and travel to New York. Okay, the time was reduced from 22 days to only a week. Now, this canal, after the building of this canal, now the ship can travel from San Francisco to New York within a week. Okay, it was reduced, and the time taken to cross this section from Pacific Ocean to Caribbean Sea was reduced to only 10 hours. So, any ship which is crossing the canal will take a time of 10 hours. Now this 10 hours might seem a very long time, but compared to this route it is extremely short. So in 81 the construction started under the France engineer whose name was Ferdinand de Lesseps. In 1904, this canal was acquired by USA, and USA continued the construction. In 1913, the construction was finally over. And 1 year after 1913, in 1914, 15th August, you can remember the date, 1914, 15th August, the canal was open for transportation, and the first ship, US ship, which made it was the SS Arkan of USA. Now until 1914, till the construction, there was a lot of events which happened or which took place in the construction of this canal. Say there were around 2,500 workers who lost their life during this construction, because this region is located near to the equator and has and is very humid and has thick jungles. So most of the workers, they lost their life to malaria or fever, yellow fever particularly. So there's a huge sacrifice given out by the workers for the construction of this canal. So until then, from then until 1999, the canal was under US control. In 1999, Panama took full control of the canal. Though Panama took full control of the canal, but yet even today you will see that USA has a huge role in the operation of Panama. And that is why China basically wanted an alternative route through Nicaragua, because they thought that at one point of time, just like Iran, completely choked the Strait of Hormuz, USA also can do this sometimes or in future. So we should have an alternative route. Okay, so from 1999, it was under the control of Panama. And today, if we look into, every year there are more than 1,500 ships which passes through this canal, Panama. Now, if you compare Panama with Suez Canal, these are similar canals, but with different, engineering or different structure. In Suez Canal, it is completely a canal which is built by cutting the land masses, and there is a long, narrow water body which is built from where the ships passes. But here, if you look into, just like I have told you, the entire region is volcanic in nature, and there are mountains, right? So this canal is not something where you cut down a mountain and create a passage, because it is very difficult and also kind of impossible to cut the strong mountains or the large landmass. If you look into the distance of Panama, it is around 80 kilometer. So to cut down an 80 kilometer of mountains, it is extremely difficult and also kind of impossible. So what did they do? There was an engineering marvel which is done in Panama, that is the lock system of uh, transportation. So you will see that if you look into this column, this is the Pacific Ocean, this is the Caribbean Sea. Now, when the ship enters, the ship comes and enters into this chamber. This is a lock. Okay, this is called as the Miraflor lock. There are different names of the lock. Like here, you will have the Gatun lock near the Gatun Lake. So the ship enters into this chamber, the water level is raised, the ship comes up to this level, enters into this chamber, then again the water level is raised, next chamber, water level is raised, next chamber, and then finally the ship is in the Gatun Lake. This is a Gatun Lake. So in the Gatun Lake, the ship travels to the lake to the defined route, and then again when it has to go to the um, Caribbean Sea or the Atlantic Ocean, again there are certain locks. The ship comes to this chamber, the water level is reduced, comes to the next chamber, the water level is again reduced, comes to the next chamber, water level is reduced, and finally the ship goes into the Atlantic Ocean. So there are different locks, something which you see like this. When the ship enters, the water level is raised and the ship goes to the next chamber. So there are such lock systems which are present in this Panama Canal. So this is all about your Panama Canal, and it does around 5% of the world's trade route for the ships. It covers 5%, and it is also one of the busiest route because it reduces the time for the ships to travel from the Asian region to the European region, or Asian region to the African region, I mean western part of the Africa. Another interesting thing in this Panama region is the Darien Gap. If you look into this Panama, this particular region, starting from the Panama city up to the boundaries of Colombia, is called as the Darien Gap. Now you will see that there is a road which connects North and South America, which is called as the Pan American Highway, which starts from Alaska. It goes through USA, through Central America, up to the Ushuaia region of Argentina, which is the southernmost point, Ushuaia. Okay. Now, this road is very popular in this region of North America and South America, but however, it is impossible for a person to travel by road from Alaska to Ushuaia in one go. Why? Because this road gets discontinued. This gets discontinued in between. So in between, that is in Panama, there is around a distance of 150 km. This road is absent. This gap is called as the Darien Gap, and it is extremely difficult and very dangerous to travel in this particular region. And traveling here is nothing but giving invitation to death. Now, what are the reasons that the Pan American road discontinued in this region, and why under the government giving efforts to continue building this road? The first one is that the geographical location. Around 130 to 150 km, this region is covered with thick forest, swamps, and harsh harsh terrain. So thus it becomes difficult to construct road. Second is the climatic condition. The climate here is humid, tropical climate, and thus there is heavy rainfall throughout the year. This heavy rainfall results into frequent landslide and also growth of lush evergreen forest. So even if a road is constructed in this region, the road is engulfed by the forest, or the road is washed away by this heavy rainfall which happens throughout the year. Okay. And the third you can talk about is that lack of government's control. In this region, the government has very limited control. I mean, the Panama government, along with the Colombian government, they do not have control here. And thus, this gives rise to mushrooming of different extremist groups, smugglers, arms traffickers, okay, kidnappers, and etc. So, this region is very popular and named as the Darien Gap. Now, this region was in news recently. Why? Because of a very popular term called as the donkey route. That is, people from different parts of the world, they come to South America in visa, but they want to go to USA. But as because they do not get visa of USA, so what do? They come to South America, and from South America, they take a road trip through this Darien Gap to the Central America, and then goes to Mexico, and then goes to USA. So here all of these people who comes as a migrant with a ambitions and hope of better livelihood in America goes to this Darien Gap. And it is very true that very less number of people can make through the Darien Gap alive. Okay. So this is all about our Central America, the Panama Canal, the Darien Gap, and the other countries. So I hope this was very knowledge gaining series. We'll continue this series in the coming days also, where we'll start with new countries and we'll do the mapping of world geography. So thank you. Take care of yourself.